Hello folks, my name's Lee Townsend and here are 6 mistakes to avoid as a gigging musician. If you're just starting out as a musician and you want to start getting some gigs, this video is definitely going to be helpful for you. But before we get into it, if you're new here and you haven't yet subscribed to this channel, please consider doing so by hitting the subscribe link down below. It really does help the channel out. And if you've got any questions or comments, leave them in the comments section down below. So, with all the YouTube stuff out of the way, let's move on to mistake number 1, which is not knowing your songs properly. Now, this may sound like a really obvious one to most people, but grabbing the chords from ultimateguitar.com and slamming them onto the tablet that you're going to be using at the gig is not the best way to add songs to your repertoire, especially when you consider that quite often the chords to these songs are wrong, and also if you haven't played through the song and practiced before your performance, you may get to a middle 8 or bridge section that you'd forgotten existed, and you're really going to come unstuck and look like an amateur when you hit that live at a gig. You'd be alarmed at the number of musicians that come up to me mid-gig and ask if they can play a song or two during my break, and quite often these will be backed up by other people that are at the gig, and they'll say, oh, this guy's a professional, he's a really good singer, you should let him get up and sing. I love watching other people play a couple of songs or whatever in the middle of a gig, but when they get up and start scrolling through Ultimate Guitar, choose a song that they've blatantly never played before, and then they hit that bit in the middle that makes them stop the song and on to the next one. It just makes them look like amateurs, and it's quite obvious that they should have avoided that thing and they should have watched this video. Mistake number 2 actually isn't a mistake as such, it's more of a tip, but I do think it's an important one, and that is to simulate gig conditions when you rehearse. What I mean by that is to not only practice the songs with an acoustic guitar sitting on your knee, looking towards your fingers, singing towards the floor and crouching over the guitar, because when you come to do a gig, you're going to put a strap on the guitar, you're going to stand up, and the guitar generally is going to sit lower, which is going to make fretting the chords and the notes more of a reach, and you could come unstuck if you're not used to playing this way. Also, you're going to want to sing out into the microphone so that the audience can understand what you're singing about. So in order to appear like you've got as much confidence as you had when you contacted the venue and asked them to book you in the first place, I'm assuming that you had some confidence to give the venue the conviction to actually place the booking in the first place, I think it is worth actually rehearsing in the same manner that you are going to do the gig, because you want to appear like you've got some confidence. So that's tip number 2. Mistake number 3 is not taking spare equipment with you. Music equipment is not indestructible, and this tip will save you from disaster at some point. Most musicians will do this anyway, but if you don't, you really should start. I know that you can't take spare everything with you because that would get prohibitively expensive, and also you'd need a lot more space in the van on the way to the gig. But things like guitar strings and cables and batteries and drumsticks and drum heads if you're a drummer are small things that you should absolutely take spares to the gigs with you, because if you break a guitar string and you've got no spares with you, you're going to look like a complete idiot and you're not going to have anywhere to turn. I once went to a gig and I got all the way to this gig, and I realised when I got to the gig and I'd set up that the capo that's normally clipped to my acoustic guitar, I'd left it clipped to the wrong guitar and I didn't have a spare with me. I really learned from that mistake because about 60% of my solo set involves putting a capo on the guitar, so I had to play the entire set either in the wrong key or transposing on the spot, which obviously sucked out a lot of the actual performance that I would normally do because I was too busy trying to think about what I was doing with regards to transposing or singing too low or singing too high. So taking spare equipment with you is absolutely vital to being a pro musician. Mistake number 4 is not communicating with the organisers properly. Now, when you book a gig, there's going to be an event organiser or somebody at the venue that you're going to have contact with from the start, and it's really important that you clarify early on what expectations they have of you, but also let them know what expectations you have of them. Little things like, where's the nearest power source to where you're going to be playing? Do you need an extension lead? Are there lights in the venue? Does the venue have a house PA? What time are you expected to be set up by? Is there anything happening between your setup and your performance starting? How long have you got for a sound check? How long are you expected to play for? Are you expected to take a break in between your performances are expected to play through. Things like that will help you know, one, what equipment to take with you, but also what time you're expected to leave your house to get to the venue on time in order to be set up on time, and all that kind of thing. Also, it will avoid the event organiser moving the goalposts between the date of the booking and the actual event taking place. So I think it's really important to clarify these points well ahead of schedule. Mistake number 5 is not being yourself on stage. Now, I know a lot of musicians will probably argue this one because quite a few musicians like to embody a persona when they're on stage. I think it helps them make the whole experience a little bit less daunting. But I like to use the approach of playing on my awkwardness a little bit when I'm on stage. And I play quite a lot of the same venues frequently, so I'm often playing to the same people like on a monthly basis, so I can't plan what I'm going to be saying in between songs, for example. So I tend to just play on my awkwardness a little bit and say inappropriate things and have a bit of a laugh down a microphone, and I do get quite good comments about that. After gigs, people will come up to me and they'll say how refreshing it is to have somebody who's obviously just a person playing songs rather than trying to put on some act and be somebody that I'm not. So I quite like that idea. I'm the same talking to an audience member after the gig as I am when I'm actually on the stage. So each their own and everything, but I quite like that approach. The 6th and final mistake is another one of those that's not really a mistake, it's more of a tip, but I do think this will go a long way in ensuring future bookings, and that is to thank the venue and the audience. Now, this is something that's overlooked definitely by local musicians. You're going to get an opportunity at some point during your set to thank the venue for having you down the microphone. If you know the venue owners by name, then even better, you can do it by name. Make sure that the audience give a round of applause because they appreciate the venue for having live music and all that kind of thing. Also, thank the bar staff or the waiters or whatever, if you're playing in a bar or a restaurant or a hotel, wherever you're playing. Thank the staff around you for doing such a great job doing what they do while you do what you do. If they feel appreciated, they're more likely to want to have you back as well. And although they might not make the bookings themselves, they might suggest you when being asked by the event organisers, who should we have back on or whatever. So I think it's really important to make them feel like you appreciate them as much as they appreciate you. And by the same rule, you should definitely thank the audience for coming as well, because if they didn't come and spend their time and money at that venue watching you play, then the venue will have no reason to rebook you. So I think that's really important to make everyone feel like they're appreciated for playing their part in a gig. At the end of the day, the gig is not only about you, it's about everybody involved, otherwise it'd just be a rehearsal, wouldn't it? So I think that's a really important tip. It's a really good thing to get into. If you can do that at any gigs that you've got, then you're definitely more likely to get rebooked. So there's 6 mistakes that I would avoid as a gigging musician. If there are any that you would have added to this list, feel free to throw them into the comment section down below. I look forward to reading those and commenting back as they come in. Thank you very much for watching this video, and thanks for making it all the way to the end. If you haven't yet subscribed to the channel and you do like this guitar and music related content videos like this that I'm making, please do consider subscribing because it really does help the channel out and it helps these videos get seen by more people. If you're already subscribed, thank you so much for being part of the community, and thank you for constantly watching these videos. I really do appreciate you. Until next time, take care, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.